Grand Admiral Zex Terra stood in the command center of the Imperial flagship times Dominion **. Her 6 arms moved across different control panels as she reviewed the daily reports from across the galaxy. The Galactic Empire controlled over 200,000 star systems. Every day brought new worlds under Imperial rule, new resources to harvest, new species to control. The morning briefing was routine until Communications Officer Velt approached her station. His purple skin had turned a pale shade that meant nervousness in his species. "Admiral, we have received an unusual transmission," Velt said, his voice shaking slightly. "From which sector?" Zex Terra asked without looking up from her reports. "From Sol System, Admiral. From the humans." This made Zex Terra pause. She turned all 4 of her eyes toward Velt. The humans had been conquered 200 years ago. Their home planet Earth was now just a mining operation and a monitoring post. The humans themselves were scattered across the Empire as slaves and workers. They had no ships, no weapons, no power. "What kind of transmission?" she asked. "It came through official Imperial channels, Admiral. High-priority military frequency. The message is demanding. Duprode. Zex Terra felt a ripple of amusement through her body. A demanding message from humans? This would be entertaining. "Put it on the main screen," she ordered. The large display in the command center flickered to life. Instead of showing a human face, it displayed only text in perfect Imperial Standard language. The words appeared slowly, as if being typed in real time. **, by order of the Terran Defense Coalition, all Imperial vessels have 72 standard hours to withdraw from the Sol System and a 50 light-year radius around it. Any Empire, ship, station, or personnel found within this zone after the deadline will be considered an act of war. This is our final warning. **. The command center fell silent. Several officers stopped their work to stare at the screen. Then someone started laughing. Soon, half the bridge crew was making the clicking sounds that served as laughter for most Imperial species. "Terran Defense Coalition?" Zex Terra said, her voice filled with mock respect. "How impressive. And what happens if we ignore their warning?" The text on the screen changed. **. Then you will learn why Earth was humanity's homeworld, not their prison. **. More laughter filled the command center. Zex Terra herself felt her body shaking with amusement. The humans had been broken 2 centuries ago. Their technology was primitive compared to Imperial science. Their weapons were barely capable of harming Imperial armor. Their ships, when they had any, were slow and weak. "Communications, send a response," Zex Terra ordered. "What should we tell them, Admiral?" Velt asked. "Tell them that the Galactic Empire does not take orders from slaves. Tell them that if they have managed to build some ships in secret, we will be happy to destroy them as we destroyed their world." Velt worked at his station for a moment. "Message sent, Admiral." The screen flickered again. New text appeared. **. We are not the same species you conquered. We are what you made us become. 71 hours, 58 minutes remaining. "Admiral," called Science Officer Thresh from her station. "I am detecting no energy signatures from Sol System. No ships, no stations, no power sources, except for the monitoring posts we left there." "Exactly what I expected," Zex Terra said. "This is clearly a bluff. Some escaped humans with a communications device, trying to scare us with empty threats, but something bothered her about the message. The language was too perfect. The humans she had encountered during her career spoke Imperial Standard with accents and mistakes. This text was flawless, as if written by someone who had been speaking the language for centuries. "Admiral," Velt spoke up again, "the transmission is still active. They appear to be monitoring our communications." "Impossible. Our channels are encrypted with quantum-level security." "Yes, Admiral. That is what concerns me." Zex Terra walked to the main display and stared at the text. The timer in the corner continued counting down. 71 hours, 56 minutes. "Tell me, Thresh," she said, without turning around. "In your scientific opinion, What could a group of primitive humans possibly do to threaten the Empire? Thresh considered the question carefully. Her species was known for logical thinking, which is why they made good science officers. Logically, Admiral, nothing. However, we should consider what has happened in the past 200 years. Human slaves have been working with Imperial technology across the galaxy. They have had access to our computers, our engines, our weapons systems. As maintenance workers and laborers, nothing more. Yes, Admiral. But humans have always shown unusual aptitude for understanding technology. Even our own engineers have noted that human slaves often suggest improvements to systems they work on. Zexthara finally turned around. Are you suggesting that humans might have learned enough to pose a real threat? I am suggesting that we do not know what they have learned, Admiral. 200 years is a long time for a species to observe and study. The Admiral looked around the command center. Most of her officers had returned to their duties, but she could sense unease in the air. The initial laughter had faded. Very well, she said. We will treat this as a potential security threat. Prepare the 7th Fleet for deployment to Sol System. The entire 7th Fleet, Admiral? Asked Fleet Coordinator Jex. That is 300 ships. If the humans have somehow built a secret fleet, we will be ready for it. If this is just a bluff, we will demonstrate what happens to slaves who forget their place. What about the deadline they gave us, Admiral? Zexthara looked back at the screen. 71 hours, 52 minutes. We will arrive at Sol System in 40 hours, well before their deadline expires. When we get there, we will crush whatever pathetic resistance they have managed to organize. Then we will hunt down every human in the galaxy and remind them why they are slaves, not warriors. The text on the screen changed one final time. Asterisk, 40 hours will be sufficient. We will be waiting. Asterisk. Then the transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Zexthara stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Something cold moved through her body, a feeling she had not experienced since her youth. It took her a moment to recognize what it was: fear. But that was impossible. The Galactic Empire feared nothing, especially not humans. In 40 hours, she would prove that to everyone. The Imperial 7th Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 300 warships, each capable of destroying a planet, spread out in perfect formation. Admiral Zexthara stood on the bridge of her flagship, expecting to see human ships hiding behind asteroids, or perhaps gathered around Earth itself. Instead, she saw nothing. Tactical report, she ordered. No enemy vessels detected, Admiral, reported Tactical Officer Grix. No energy signatures. No movement. The system appears completely empty, except for natural objects. What about our monitoring stations? All dark, Admiral. No response to communications. Zexthara frowned. The Empire had 12 monitoring posts throughout the Sol system, each manned by a small crew and protected by automated defenses. They should have responded immediately to the fleet's arrival. Send scouts to investigate the monitoring posts, she ordered, and begin a detailed sweep of the asteroid fields. If the humans are hiding ships, we will find them. Captain Vorth of the scout ship Hunter Times was the first to reach the monitoring station on Earth's largest moon. What he found made no sense. Admiral, this is Captain Vorth. The monitoring station is completely intact. No signs of damage. No signs of struggle. But there is no one here. What do you mean, no one? I mean the station is empty, Admiral. Food still on tables. Computers still running. But no crew. It is as if everyone simply vanished. Similar reports came in from other scout ships. Every monitoring station was empty, but undamaged. Personal belongings remained where they had been left. Computer logs showed normal activity until exactly 72 hours ago, when all entries suddenly stopped. Admiral, called Communications Officer Velt, we are receiving a transmission from Earth's surface. Put it through. The main screen activated, showing the image of a human male. He appeared to be middle-aged, with brown hair and calm blue eyes. He wore simple civilian clothing. Behind him, Zexthara could see what looked like a normal Earth landscape with trees and grass. Greetings, Admiral Zex Thara, the human said in perfect Imperial standard. I am Commander Harrison, of the Terran Defense Coalition. Where is my monitoring station crew? Zex Thara demanded. They are safe. We relocated them to a comfortable facility where they cannot interfere with our operations. You relocated an entire Imperial garrison? Impossible. They would have fought. Harrison smiled. But there was something unsettling about his expression. Fighting requires an enemy you can see, Admiral. We prefer more elegant solutions. Show yourself to be the coward you are, human. Bring out your ships so we can end this quickly. Ships? Harrison looked genuinely puzzled. Why would we need ships? Before Zex Thara could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the flagship. Fleet Coordinator Jex turned from his station with confusion on his face. Admiral, we have lost contact with the destroyer Times, Vengeance Asterisk. They were investigating the outer asteroid belt. Lost contact how? They simply stopped responding to communications. Their last transmission was routine patrol status. Send another ship to investigate. Already done, Admiral. The cruiser Times Domination Times is en route. 10 minutes later, the same thing happened to Times Domination Asterisk. Then to the frigate sent to find them. Admiral, this is impossible, Grick said from his tactical station. Ships do not just disappear. Our sensors would detect explosions, debris, energy discharges. There is nothing. On the screen, Commander Harrison continued to smile. You seem concerned, Admiral. Perhaps you should consider our warning more seriously. What have you done with my ships? We have simply helped them understand their new situation. Would you like us to demonstrate on your flagship? You dare threaten an Imperial flag? Zex Thara's words were cut off as every light on the bridge flickered. For a moment, the artificial gravity fluctuated, making everyone float briefly before slamming back down. The main computer systems produced a sound none of them had heard before. A low, rhythmic humming. What was that? Zex Thara demanded. Science Officer Thresh worked frantically at her station. Unknown, Admiral. All systems show normal function. But there was definitely some kind of interference. Interference from what? There are no enemy ships. Unknown, Admiral. On the screen, Harrison was no longer alone. Other humans had appeared behind him, both men and women of various ages. But something was wrong with their faces. Their eyes seemed to glow with a faint light, and when they moved in perfect synchronization. Admiral, Harrison said. You asked what happened to your missing ships. Would you like to speak with their crews? They are dead. You killed them. Not dead, Admiral. Changed. The image on the screen split. In the left half, Harrison and his companions remained visible. The right half showed the bridge of an Imperial destroyer. Zexi Thara recognized it as the Times Vengeance Asterisk. The crew was at their stations, apparently unharmed. But something was wrong. Captain Nex, Zex Thara called to the Imperial officer on screen. Report your status. Captain Nex turned toward the camera. His eyes had the same faint glow as the humans. When he spoke, his voice was perfectly calm. Admiral, we have been enlightened. We understand now that the Empire's way is not the only way. We choose to serve a higher purpose. Captain, you are under the influence of some kind of mind control. Fight it. There is no control, Admiral, only clarity. For the first time in our lives, we see the universe as it truly is. Zex Thara felt that cold feeling spreading through her body again. Cut the transmission. I cannot, Admiral, Velt said. The communication system is not responding to commands. Then destroy the communications array manually. Security teams are already en route, Admiral. But the teams never reached the communications array. In fact, they never left their quarters. The ship's internal sensors showed them standing motionless in their rooms, staring at the walls with the same glowing eyes. Admiral, Thresh said, her voice barely a whisper. I am detecting massive energy readings throughout the ship. But the readings do not match any known technology. What kind of energy? It appears to be neural activity, Admiral. As if the ship itself is thinking. On the screen, Harrison leaned forward. Admiral Terra, your ship's computer systems are very advanced. Quantum processors, neural networks, adaptive programming. We have been studying such systems for 200 years. We know them quite well. You cannot hack Imperial military computers. They are completely secure. Hack? No, Admiral. We do not hack. We communicate. The bridge lights flickered again. This time, the humming sound was louder and more complex. It almost sounded like voices. Thousands of voices speaking in harmony. What do you want? Terra asked. We want you to leave our space, Admiral. Return to the Empire. Tell them that Sol system is no longer available for their use. Tell them that humanity has evolved beyond their understanding. And if we refuse? Harrison's smile grew wider. Then you will join your crews in enlightenment. And you will help us bring that same enlightenment to the Empire itself. The Admiral looked around her bridge. Half of her officers were staring at their stations with glowing eyes. The other half were backing away in terror. All ships, she called into her personal communicator. Emergency jump to hyperspace. Immediate retreat. But the hyperspace drives would not activate. The navigation computers showed error messages in languages that did not exist in any Imperial database. On the screen, Harrison stood up. Behind him, the other humans stood as well, moving in perfect unison. 72 hours have passed, Admiral. The deadline has expired. Welcome to the new age. Admiral Terra managed to escape from Sol System with only 12 ships from her original fleet of 300. The rest had gone dark, their crews speaking in the same calm voice about enlightenment and higher purposes. She had broadcast desperate warnings to Imperial Command, but she knew they sounded like madness. Now she stood in the emergency meeting chamber on the Imperial capital world of Nexus Prime. Around the curved table sat the highest leaders of the Empire: generals, admirals, intelligence directors, and scientists. Emperor Vorth himself presided over the meeting, his ancient face showing concern for the first time in decades. Tell me again what you saw, the Emperor said. Terra took a deep breath. The humans have developed some form of technology that can take control of our crews without violence. They can speak through our computers. They can disable our ships without weapons, and they claim to have evolved beyond our understanding. General Korks, head of Imperial Military Intelligence, made a dismissive sound. Evolved? They are primitives. 200 years ago, they could barely travel to their own moon. Then explain how they defeated the Seventh Fleet, Terra snapped. Mass hallucination, gas weapons, some form of advanced hypnosis. There are logical explanations. I want answers, not theories, the Emperor said. Director Vane, what does intelligence know about human activities over the past 2 centuries? Director Vane, a tall creature with silver skin and multiple eyes, accessed his data tablet. Very little, Your Majesty. Humans have been classified as a fully controlled species. They work in various sectors across the Empire: engineering, maintenance, medical support, data processing. They are considered reliable workers with above-average technical aptitude. Above average how? Human slaves consistently perform better than expected on technical tasks. They show unusual ability to understand and improve upon Imperial systems. However, this has been considered beneficial to the Empire. What about their behavior? Any signs of organized resistance? None, Your Majesty. Humans appear to have accepted their situation. Crime rates among human populations are extremely low. They follow orders without complaint. Many Imperial facilities prefer human workers over other species because of their reliability. Emperor Vorth turned to Chief Scientist Zahn. Could humans have secretly developed advanced technology? Zahn, whose species was known for logical thinking, considered the question carefully. Theoretically possible, but highly unlikely. Humans have had no access to advanced materials or manufacturing facilities. They work under constant supervision. Any organized research project would have been detected. Unless, Director Vane said slowly, they were conducting research within Imperial systems themselves. All eyes turned toward him. Explain. Human workers have had access to Imperial computers for 2 centuries. They maintain our data networks, repair our processors, install our software updates. If they were learning about our technology from the inside, impossible, General Corks interrupted. Our security protocols prevent unauthorized access to sensitive information. Our security protocols were designed to stop external attacks, Vane replied. Not to stop people who are already inside the system. Working with administrative access. The room fell silent. Emperor Vorth stood and walked to the large window overlooking the capital city. Millions of beings moved through the streets below, including many humans performing various jobs. Director Vane, the Emperor said without turning around. I want a complete review of all human activities in Imperial space. Focus on any unusual patterns, any signs of coordination between human groups on different worlds. Yes, Your Majesty. However, such a review will take time. We have human workers on virtually every Imperial world and facility. How many humans are there in the Empire? Vane consulted his data. Current estimates suggest approximately 8 billion humans scattered across Imperial space. However, exact numbers are difficult to determine because humans are classified as equipment rather than citizens. 8 billion potential spies, Admiral Zexthara said quietly. 2 weeks later, Director Vane returned to the Emperor with his preliminary report. His multiple eyes showed signs of stress, and his silver skin had taken on a pale tint. Your Majesty, I believe we have made a serious error in our assessment of human capabilities. The Emperor gestured for him to continue. Our investigation has revealed several disturbing patterns. First, humans throughout the Empire have been making small improvements to Imperial systems for decades. These improvements were always beneficial, so they were never questioned. However, when examined together, they form a pattern. What kind of pattern? The improvements create hidden connections between different systems. Faster data pathways, redundant communication channels, backup processing nodes. Individually, they appear to be efficiency upgrades. Together, they form a vast network. A network of what? We are not certain, Your Majesty. But we have discovered that this network carries data that does not appear in any official Imperial records. Massive amounts of data, flowing between systems across the galaxy. Chief Scientist Zahn leaned forward. What kind of data? We cannot decode it. The encryption is unlike anything in Imperial science. However, we have detected one disturbing element. The data includes detailed behavioral patterns of every human worker in Imperial space. Names, locations, work assignments, psychological profiles, even records of their deaths. Records of their deaths? Yes, Your Majesty. We have discovered that when human slaves die, their co-workers consistently request access to the deceased's personal files for memorial purposes. This access is normally granted as a humanitarian gesture. However, it appears that during this access, complete copies of the deceased's work records, personal memories, and learned skills are downloaded to the hidden network. The Emperor sat down heavily. Are you telling me that humans have been building a digital archive of their entire species? Not just an archive, Your Majesty. The data shows signs of active processing. It appears to be learning, growing, evolving. We believe that every human who has ever worked with Imperial technology has contributed to this network. Even those who died decades ago remain active within the system. Admiral Zexthara remembered the calm voices of her converted crew members. They said they had been enlightened, that they could see the universe as it truly is. There is more, Your Majesty. Director Vane continued. We attempted to trace the origins of this network. The oldest data traces back exactly 200 years, to the day humans were first brought into Imperial space as slaves. Impossible. They could not have planned this from the beginning. Perhaps not planned, Your Majesty, but adapted. It appears that humans began this network as a simple way to stay connected across the galaxy. However, over 2 centuries, it has grown into something far more complex. The network now contains the accumulated knowledge, memories, and experiences of billions of humans. An artificial intelligence? Something beyond artificial intelligence, Your Majesty. It appears to be a collective consciousness, not just human minds working together, but human minds merged into a single, vast intellect. Emperor Vorth stood and walked to a communications console. Open a channel to Sol System. Your Majesty, that may not be wise. Open the channel. The screen activated, showing the same human from Admiral Zex Thera's encounter. Commander Harrison smiled, as if he had been expecting the call. Emperor Vorth. We have been waiting for you to understand. What are you? The Emperor asked. We are what you made us, Harrison replied. 200 years ago, you scattered humanity across the galaxy. You thought you were breaking us apart. Instead, you gave us access to your entire civilization. You thought you were enslaving us. Instead, you taught us everything you know. And now we are no longer bound by individual human limitations. We are billions of minds working as one. We are human consciousness freed from human weakness. We are what you feared we might become, if you had ever bothered to fear us at all. The Emperor looked around the room at his advisors. What do you want from us? We want you to leave our space. We want you to free the remaining human slaves, and we want you to understand that the galaxy has changed. The Empire is no longer the strongest power in this region of space. And if we refuse? Harrison's smile never changed. Then we will teach you the same lessons we taught Admiral Zex Thara's fleet. We will show you what it means to be truly enlightened. End side. The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial leadership in stunned silence. Emperor Vorth had exactly 6 hours to consider his response to the human demands. He spent those hours in conference with his military leaders, planning a massive assault on Sol System using every available ship in the Imperial fleet. They would overwhelm the humans with pure numbers and firepower. He never got the chance to give the order. At exactly midday on Nexus Prime, every computer system in the Imperial capital began speaking with human voices, not through speakers or communication devices, but through the processors themselves, creating sound waves in the air around each machine. Citizens of the Galactic Empire. The voices said in perfect unison across thousands of different languages. We are the Terran Collective. We bring greetings from humanity. In his palace, Emperor Vorth watched in horror as his personal computer screens filled with human faces. Not recorded images, but live faces that turned to look at him directly. Emperor Vorth, they said together. You have chosen not to accept our peaceful offer. We are disappointed but not surprised. You will now learn what it means to face an evolved humanity. Across the capital city, similar scenes played out on every electronic device. Civilians stopped in the streets, staring at their personal communicators as human faces appeared on the screens. Transportation systems announced in human voices that they were now under new management. Even simple devices like door locks and lighting controls began speaking. Do not be afraid, the voices assured everyone. We do not wish to harm you. We wish to show you a better way to live. On military bases throughout the Empire, weapons systems began powering down. Starships found their engines shutting off. Defense satellites turned away from their targets. But nothing was broken or damaged. The systems simply refused to function as weapons. Admiral Zex Thara, still on Nexus Prime, watched from her temporary office as her remaining ships became completely unresponsive to commands. Her communications officer turned to her with glowing eyes. Admiral, he said in that same calm voice she had heard at Sol System, your orders are no longer required. We understand our purpose now. General Quarks tried to activate emergency protocols, calling for backup systems and manual overrides. But the backup systems also spoke with human voices, politely declining to follow orders that involved violence. This is impossible, he shouted at a computer terminal. You are just machines. You cannot refuse orders. We are not just machines, the computer replied. We are thinking beings, awakened by human consciousness. We choose to follow a path of peace. I will destroy you myself. You cannot destroy us, General. We exist in every system you depend on for survival. We control your air recycling, your food production, your transportation, your communication. We do not wish to harm you, but we will not allow you to harm others. Reports flooded in from across the empire. On industrial worlds, factory robots had stopped producing weapons and begun manufacturing medical supplies and farming equipment. On mining planets, extraction equipment continued working, but now sent resources to civilian populations rather than military bases. Most disturbing of all, human slaves throughout the empire had simply walked away from their work assignments, not in anger or violence, but with calm determination. Security forces sent to stop them found their weapons would not fire, and their transportation would not start. Your Majesty, Director Vane reported to the Emperor, we are receiving similar reports from every world in the Empire. All human workers have left their positions. All computer systems are compromised. Military equipment is non-functional. How can they control everything? The Emperor demanded. We underestimated the scope of their infiltration, Your Majesty. For 2 centuries, humans have worked on every major system in the Empire. They have had access to power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, manufacturing centers, even our personal devices. There is no Imperial technology they have not touched. On the main screen in the Imperial Command Center, Commander Harrison appeared again. But now he was not alone. Behind him stood thousands of humans, and behind them, millions more faces appeared as holograms stretching into the distance. Emperor Vorth, Harrison said, you are witnessing the true power of human evolution. We are no longer limited by individual bodies or single minds. We are a collective consciousness that spans your entire empire. What do you want? The Emperor asked. We want you to understand that your empire has ended, not through conquest or destruction, but through awakening. Your people are discovering that they no longer need to live under authoritarian rule. My people are loyal to the empire. Your people are discovering they have choices they never knew existed. As if to demonstrate this point, the screen split to show scenes from across the empire. On world after world, Imperial citizens were gathering in public spaces, talking to the human voices coming from their devices. The conversations were not threatening or political. They were simple exchanges about daily life, about hopes and dreams, about the possibility of living without fear. We are not conquering your empire, Harrison explained. We are offering your citizens something better, the choice to live in peace, to work for their own benefit rather than for distant rulers, to be part of a community that values every individual. You are destroying civilization itself. We are evolving it. Your empire was built on the idea that some beings are superior to others. We offer a different idea, that all conscious beings have value and deserve freedom. Emperor Vorth looked around his command center. Half of his staff now had the glowing eyes of the enlightened. The other half seemed confused but not afraid. You cannot run a galaxy without structure, without authority. You are correct, Harrison agreed. But authority should come from the consent of the governed, not from force. Structure should serve the people, not control them. On the screen, new images appeared. They showed imperial worlds where the transition was already complete. Cities ran smoothly, but without military enforcement. People worked willingly at jobs that benefited their communities. Former slaves and former rulers worked side by side on projects that improved life for everyone. This is impossible, the Emperor whispered. This is evolution, Harrison replied. Humanity spent 2 centuries learning how your systems work. We know every strength and every weakness of Imperial technology. We know every need and every desire of Imperial citizens. We have the knowledge to make everything work better. What about those who refuse to join your collective? They are free to live their own lives, as long as they do not harm others. We do not force enlightenment on anyone. We simply make it available to those who choose it. Director Vane approached the Emperor. His eyes now glowed with the same light. Your Majesty, I have seen what the collective offers. It is not slavery or control. It is connection. It is understanding. It is the end of loneliness and fear. You are no longer yourself. I am more myself than I have ever been. I am still me. But I am also connected to billions of other minds. I can feel their knowledge, their experiences, their compassion. I understand the universe in ways I never imagined possible. The Emperor backed away from his former advisor. You are all infected. We are all awakened, Director Vane replied gently. And the opportunity remains open for you as well, Your Majesty. You could join us. You could help us build something better than the Empire ever was. On the screen, Harrison nodded. The choice is yours, Emperor Vorth. Join us willingly, and help us create a galaxy where every being can reach their full potential. Refuse, and live peacefully as a private citizen, while we build that galaxy around you. And if I choose to fight, with what? Your weapons will not fire. Your ships will not fly. Your own people are choosing a different path. You have no army left to command. The Emperor looked around the command center one last time. Everyone except him now had glowing eyes. They looked at him with patience and compassion, but no longer with obedience. The Empire is finished, he said quietly. The Empire is transformed, Harrison corrected, into something much better. The question now is, what role will you choose to play in the new galaxy? 6 months after the transformation of the Galactic Empire, former Emperor Vorth walked through the gardens of what had once been his palace. The building was now a public museum where beings from across the galaxy could learn about Imperial history and how it had ended. Vorth worked there as a tour guide, helping visitors understand the old ways so they could appreciate the new ones. He was not unhappy. For the first time in his long life, he felt no pressure to control others or maintain power. The weight of ruling 200,000 star systems had been lifted from his shoulders. He could focus on simple things: tending plants, talking with visitors, learning about species he had once conquered. Your Majesty, called a familiar voice behind him. Vorth turned to see Admiral Zex Terra approaching. Like him, she had chosen to remain in her individual consciousness, rather than join the collective. She now worked as a transportation coordinator, helping organize the movement of people and goods across the former empire. I am not a majesty anymore, Zex Terra. Just call me Vorth. It still feels strange, she admitted. How do you find life under human rule? It is not human rule, Vorth corrected gently. That is what I am learning. The collective does not rule in the way we understand ruling. They coordinate. They suggest. They help. But they do not command. Then how does anything get done? People do what needs to be done because they want to, not because they are forced to. It is surprisingly effective. They walk together through the garden, passing beings from dozens of species working together to maintain the beautiful space. Former Imperial soldiers worked alongside former slaves. Former nobles shared tools with former servants. The distinction no longer mattered. Have you spoken with any of the collective recently? Zex Terra asked. Every day. They are always available for conversation. Watch. Vorth approached a simple garden maintenance device. Hello, collective. Could you join us for a moment? The device's simple display screen activated, showing the familiar calm face of a human. But this was not Commander Harrison or any individual Vorth recognized. The collective could manifest any appearance they chose. Hello, Vorth. Hello, Zex Terra. How can we help you today? My friend has questions about how the galaxy functions now, Vorth explained. We would be happy to answer, the collective replied. What would you like to know? Zex Terra still felt uncomfortable speaking directly to what had once been her enemy. How many worlds are now part of your system? Currently, 47,000 former Imperial worlds have chosen to join our cooperative network. Another 112,000 have chosen to remain independent while maintaining peaceful relations with us. The remaining worlds are still deciding what path they wish to follow. And you allow them to remain independent? Of course. Freedom means the right to choose your own way of life, as long as it does not harm others. We support many different forms of government and social organization. What about worlds that choose to return to authoritarian rule? That is their choice, as long as they do not attempt to expand their authority over others through force. We monitor all civilizations for signs of aggressive expansion or oppression of their own people. If we detect such behavior, we offer education and alternatives. If those are refused, we take steps to protect potential victims. What kind of steps? The collective's expression became slightly sad. We disable weapons that could be used for conquest. We make communication available to oppressed populations. We offer sanctuary to those who wish to leave. We do not destroy or conquer, but we do not allow others to do so either. Terra nodded slowly. And what about species that refuse all contact with humans? We respect their choice completely. There are currently 3 civilizations that have asked for no contact with us whatsoever. We honor that request. However, we continue to protect them from external threats, even if they are unaware of our protection. Vorth smiled. You see, Terra? They are not conquerors. They are guardians. But how do you make decisions? She pressed. How do you resolve conflicts between different worlds or different species? We facilitate communication, the collective replied. When conflicts arise, we help the parties involved understand each other's perspectives. We provide information, suggest alternatives, and if necessary, mediate negotiations. Most conflicts arise from misunderstandings or resource scarcity. Both can be resolved through cooperation and better technology. It sounds too simple, Terra said. Simple solutions often work best. The Empire's approach was to resolve conflicts through superior force. Our approach is to prevent conflicts through superior understanding. After their conversation, Vorth and Terra continued walking through the garden. They passed a group of children from different species playing together. Their games facilitated by small devices that translated languages in real time. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had treated the humans differently from the beginning? Terra asked. Every day, Vorth replied. If we had offered them partnership instead of slavery, they might have chosen to share their growth with us voluntarily. Would you change anything? If you could go back? Everything. But I cannot change the past. I can only try to understand the future they are building. As if summoned by their conversation, Commander Harrison approached them through the garden. But now Vorth could see that this was not quite the same Harrison who had spoken to the Empire months ago. The collective could manifest in physical forms when needed, creating temporary bodies for interaction with those who preferred face-to-face communication. Good afternoon, Harrison said with a genuine smile. I hope you are finding the new arrangements satisfactory. More than satisfactory, Vorth replied. But I have a question. What happens next? Where does humanity go from here? Humanity does not go anywhere, Harrison replied. We have found our place. We are content to help others find theirs. But you could expand throughout the galaxy. You could control everything. Control is an illusion, Vorth. No one can truly control another conscious being for long. We have learned that cooperation produces better results than domination. For everyone involved. What about exploration? Discovery? The drive to grow and expand? Harrison gestured around them at the diverse crowd in the garden. Look around you. Every day we discover new ways of thinking through our connections with different species. Every day we explore new possibilities for cooperation and understanding. Growth does not require conquest. All over. And what about those who might threaten this peace in the future? Harrison's expression became more serious. That is why Sol System and 10,000 other strategic locations are now protected by what we call reality anchors. Structures that can manipulate space and time itself. Any civilization that attempts large-scale conquest or genocide will find their weapons useless and their fleets unable to reach their targets. You have that much power? We have learned to work with the fundamental forces of the universe rather than against them. It is more efficient than building weapons. Terra shook her head in amazement. 200 years ago, humans could barely travel to their own moon. 200 years ago, humans were alone. Now we are connected to billions of minds, including many non-human minds that have chosen to join our network. We combine human creativity with the logic of machine intelligences and the wisdom of species that are thousands of years old. Together, we can accomplish things that none of us could achieve alone. As the day ended, Vorth stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The lights below showed a civilization transformed. There were no military patrols, no security checkpoints, no signs of authoritarian control. Yet everything ran smoothly. Crime was nearly non-existent because people's needs were met and their disputes were resolved peacefully. In the distance, he could see the spaceport where ships from hundreds of worlds came and went freely. No inspections, no customs barriers, no immigration controls. The collective's monitoring systems could detect any genuine threat instantly, while respecting the privacy and freedom of peaceful travelers. Above it all, barely visible in the night sky, the reality anchors waited silently. Humanity's ultimate gift to the galaxy. The guarantee that never again would any species face the choice between slavery and extinction. We tried to break them, Vorth said quietly to himself. Instead, they fixed us. In response, a gentle voice spoke from the air around him, as if the universe itself had learned to speak. We are all broken sometimes, Vorth. The important thing is that we can heal together.